Hello everyone, my name is Arash Shahriari, and in this video I'm going to explain to you the guide how to go to a dealership, buy a car and not get screwed all along. This video is going to be divided in two sections. One is running the numbers, as you can see on this board here. We're going to go over all the details on it. In the second part of the video, I'm going to explain the financing part of it so you understand. Before we get started, most important note, everything that I explained in this video, you want to do it before actually stepping your foot into the dealership. You understand? So this is very important. You don't want to be that person who goes to the grocery store and be compulsed around buying stuff out of compulsion. You want to do everything at home, because unlike the grocery store where we're talking about $20, $30, we're talking about thousands of dollars. And when you come back home and you get screwed, you have nobody to blame but yourself. You're going to be mad as hell and it's going to hurt. So let's get started. Number one, what you see right here is called MSRP, also known as Manufacturer Suggested Retail Price. This is essentially a number that manufacturer pulls up a few criteria from the market that is the vehicles being sold, and it's a national essentially value that assess and is related to the price of the item. And the whole idea behind it is to ensure that the people don't have difficulty as a dealer trying to justify their prices. It's kind of like how you go to your bank, and when you have a pending charge, your bank tells you that, you know what, we have 14 days, until this charge drops from your account, or how the postal service will tell you that, we have like 15 days. Whereas in reality, you might actually get your mail like in 2 or 3 days. So this is the idea behind that. What I'm trying to tell you by this, the idea is that it doesn't mean anything. Everything is dependent on the market forces, that is demand and supply, okay? And in the last few years, because of the rise in social media and the private ways that in a democratic way people can actually offer themselves their products instead of going through a dealer, the prices have substantially dropped. However, this little guy, MSRP, has stayed the same. So what you want to do is that you don't want to pay at all attention to this when it comes to negotiation. You don't want to even think about this number. Doesn't mean anything. But for the simplicity, I put in these numbers together to be rounds for the most part, with the exception of a few which are like usually consistent no matter where you live. So to try to explain that better. So in this example, we have the manufacturer suggested retail price of $30,000. Now, there's two things very misleading and confusing by these unscrupulous salesmen, that their way of doing business obviously needs to be reformed, and that's what I'm seeking to begin with, is that even to an accountant, the way that it's laid out, it doesn't make sense. This is what you see here is not what the layout that you see in a buyer sheet when you go to the dealership. They have numbers on separate columns. Essentially, they do not follow the GAAP or the generally accepted accounting principles as we know of it. So even for an accountant, it would be very confusing to look at it. What even makes worse is that some of these fees don't show up on the buyer's sheet. So for example, what you see here about the government fee, $117.25, you will not see that. Or some of the fees that later for warranty, services or the gap insurance, you would not see that on the initial buyer sheet. Although they could argue for these part that, these have to do with financing or extras that you would be adding, and that's why we're not discussing it. Although in my opinion, it would be nice if when somebody goes in, you would actually present them a couple of sheets that are assessed and are attached to that buyer sheet, which explains to you the options that you could add to it, or if you were to do the financing, so you know ahead of time what your final price is going to be before you even want to go to financing. But nonetheless, let's get into it. So the way they do it is that, then again, as a third point, to make it more confusing, is that number one, they add a dealer's fee to this amount. So this amount increases partially, and then they add a dealer's discount, which to me, it doesn't even make sense, because why would you want to not just make one adjustment for the sake of it? It just adds an extra confusion to the matter. But nonetheless, we're dealing with con artists essentially that unfortunately they're committing a legal theft, and that's how they do it. Number 4 is the government fee, $995. This is a fee that they assess to you when you want to buy a car. Government fee number 2, $117.25. This comes in and it is an additional registration fee when you're financing a vehicle, so you will not see it as an initial buyer's sheet. It could also be the part that has to do with registration of the car. The next one has to do with the taxes. This number that you see here is the taxes, hypothetically, for state of Florida that I put down here. Registration fee would be the amount that you pay to register your car, and that would be $439. The gap insurance, which is $1,399, is the next item in line. Now, what is gap insurance to begin with? You're financing. If the vehicle gets totaled, that relieves you from having to pay essentially anything out of the pocket. Although this gap insurance, then again, for me is kind of a weird and unusual for me to grasp upon it for the second purpose, and that's because, you know, when you're having the collision added to your insurance, you know, whatever happens to your car, that has to kick in, and after deductible has to cover the entire cost of the vehicle. Nonetheless, this would still not be a bad bet to get, you know, so it would be good to have it. Some dealers will tell you that you need to have that as an obligatory thing, you know, but that's not valid. You don't have to have it, but if you decide to get it, I do personally recommend getting that nonetheless. Gap insurance tax, that's another thing, which is tax on the, you know, what we just discussed, that would be also added to it. And the warranty service, this is very important, warranty services. Now, when it comes to the used vehicles, oftentimes in the last few years, we have seen this trend where we call it, you know, certified pre-owned. Now, they don't call it used car anymore, which is another point of unscrupulous thing. But aside from the etymology, the key point is that with the certified pre-owned, you do get a warranty. However, remember, if you have an electrical vehicle, an EV that you're buying, like Tesla, for example, or some of these other ones that are out there in the market, this certified pre-owned warranty that they add to it, that does not apply to the electric vehicle components. Those electrical components are not covered, so you do need to take out an additional one. That is why I listed this here, because this doesn't come with the electrical vehicle, and specifically if you're buying it. So keep very cautious when you're actually reading the warranty service that the manufacturer is offering you, okay? Always go to the fine prints. All the devil is in the fine prints, as always they say. So all these things added together, you arrive at the number which is $32,513. Now, let's move on to the part 2, financing. That's what we're going to talk about now. All right, so when we go to financing, you see this phone? This is your most important asset. You really want to make the best use of this thing. Ideally, you want to do everything ahead of time before you actually go to the dealership. That is, you want to pick a vehicle that you're interested, okay? Even if that means that as a front showcase of a dealership, you actually go to the, you know, the dealer's website and try to browse the items that you see there, so you know specifically what you're looking at. And what you want to do is that when you've picked a vehicle, you want to put it in your Google. You want to search on Google, for example, buy a used or new Tesla Model X, for example. You want to put that in, or any vehicle. And you want to see the values that is up there. You want to essentially get a sense of how much is the worth of the car that you're buying in a market. And remember, we used to be KBB, Kelly books, okay? That's the one that people went by. This methodology, unfortunately, is outdated because it no longer keeps in mind the balance with, you know, that equilibrium that the demand and market has shifted essentially, as more buyers are able now through, you know, private social media like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist themselves can auction their vehicle versus going through the dealer. You know what I mean? So Kelly Book doesn't do it anymore. You want to search on Google, you see all these private owners or smaller dealerships that are not taking the, you know, taking advantage of the internet and are selling their vehicles. You want to look at the prices there. This is where you get a sense of how much the vehicle, whether new or used, that you're trying to buy is worth. In particular, I do recommend you going to 2 websites. One is called truecars.com, and the other will be called Carvana. CarMax is another one. CarMax typically gives you a rate more on the lower end because they're like a big market out there who essentially they sell vehicles and they want to, get a higher return. So CarMax is another one. You could also do that. However, CarMax does require you to often take some pictures of it. If the dealer is okay with it when you go actually in, and that is, definitely go with True Cars or Carvana, get an assessment and then go in for the CarMax if that's what you want to do. And how do you say that? Essentially, if they allow you, take some pictures, put it in. CarMax tells you that within like 20 to 25 minutes, roughly speaking, they will give you assessment on how much the appraised value of the vehicle that you're looking for is. So finance is the part that really, this phone becomes your good and the best friend that you could ever think of. What you want to do is that you never want to take the financing out of the dealer. Dealership's financing is a racket. I will repeat, is a racket. It's a well-organized crime that somehow is legal. What they do is that as soon as you go to the financing, they start running your credit, like with multiple lenders, depending on your chance, maybe 5, 6, sometimes more, sometimes less. The moral story is that when that happens and they do it intentionally, that reduces your credit score. Not only it reduces your credit score every 2 points for every inquiry, also because of multiple inquiry makes it harder for the lender to trust you because you're looking for more options and they see that as a negativity against you. So what you want to do is that you never want to take financing at the vehicle unless you're really desperate and you really can't find one for various reasons. Maybe your credit is not good and you're really looking for a car, so maybe you want to work Uber. Essentially you're in that destitute position. That's a whole different ball game, although I do recommend then again to definitely go ahead and haggle, if you will, with the finance guy as much as you can. But if you are in the good range, 680 is above, look online. Don't ever do that. Don't go to the dealership looking for financing from the finance guy. This is the way they do it. As I said, they drop your points. So finally, the last point that on the lease that comes up as they're running your credit, that will show the highest possible interest for you, and that's the one that the dealer is going to pick for you because that they're working on commission, and the higher the interest rate, the higher they get. They even go one step further and they even offer you in-house financing, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with what I'm talking about. Essentially, the dealer themselves, they borrow money from the bank at a lower rate and then they sell you at a higher rate, which makes a difference. An entire difference would be an additional source of revenue for the dealer. So you never want to go to the finance guy. You always want to do it yourself. All right, once everything is clear, you want to go to this website. It's called calculator.net. You pull that up and you search for an amortization calculator. Yeah, you can just directly, just type in Google amortization calculator. So whatever is the amount that you get either from the finance that you did it yourself or you got it from the finance guy, you want to put that number along with the interest rate and the term of the loan. Terms means the duration of the loan. You want to put that numbers in years or month, whatever it tells you. And calculator.net, it will show you in years. So for example, if you have a 72 month loan, that would be 6 years. So you put in 6 years and that will give you the exact amount that monthly you have to pay after all these values are added and you arrive at this final total, okay? And of course, if you're making a down payment, you will take the down payment, you will subtract your down payment from this amount right here. So that final amount after the down payment, if anything you're paying, is the amount that you're amortizing. And you want to make sure that that monthly amount that shows up on the calculator matches exactly with what the dealer or the finance in-house, or even when you're ahead of time you're doing it yourself, it matches up with it. If there's any discrepancy, you want to get on the phone or talk to that person, find out why these two numbers don't match up, because they do this. They add you some hidden fees and you don't know it, and as long as you don't know it, they win it. So you don't want to be, playing this immature game. You definitely want to know what you're doing, because guess what? You're going to feel screwed. It's going to really hurt bad and you can blame nobody but yourself. All right, so I hope this video was helpful for you. I have 2 more points that I want to describe before I end this video. If by any reason you run into trouble and you feel like you're not confident enough to do this, I charge $120 to do exactly what I explained to you and nothing else, along with kind of a, standing up to the finance guy or the company that you're financing to try to make sense of what's going on and clarifying that and making sure that you're not getting screwed. This is something that I can do for $120, and that's for the remote virtual session. If you want me to come in, that would be an extra fee depending on the location that you're in. All right, the second one that I want to say, because I got screwed myself, and listen, I want to really say this. You're hearing this from this guy right here, the guy who's an accountant. He knows the insurance and he got screwed. Why? Because it's a very logical matter. I don't care who you are. You could be a politician who manages to create a war even and kill 1 million people even. You could be an attorney who's used to, all the lies. If you're not a finance guy yourself, or you're not a car salesman who's been doing this in a row for 2, 3, God knows so many years, and it's just a basic game math, okay? They have by far more experience and they know. It's not that there's something wrong with you. It's just a matter of very basic math. They know what to do because they've done this as a practice so many times and you've never done it, or maybe you just done it once or twice. So it's a very simple math. You definitely want to do it ahead of time. And the way that it works, that unfortunately is a legal theft. I repeat, this is legal theft. What they're doing needs to be regulated, and I've created a petition that will be linked into the description of this video. If you care about the change and reforming the way that the dealers are working and they're operating, please go ahead and sign it. It will only take a few minutes. That will give us the ability to reach out to the state or even the federal government, as that level goes, to try to make some changes. Thank you. My name is Arash. I hope this video was useful for you. If you found it useful, give it a like, and also don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thank you.